Hey guys, tonight we journey to a place where survival meant silence, obedience and pain served cold. You're standing at the edge of a dusty plain, the heat rising off the red earth in shimmering waves. In the distance, low, squat and severe, looms the training camp of ancient Sparta. Not the glorious marble Sparta from tourist brochures or Hollywood slow-mo battles. This is the real one. Mud brick barracks, sour-smelling sweat and the constant threat of a boot to the ribs. And you're barefoot, underfed and wildly unprepared. You've been brought here to begin the Agoge, the brutal military upbringing every Spartan boy endured. Except you're not a Spartan. You didn't grow up dodging fists or running barefoot over jagged hills. You didn't eat raw onions for breakfast. You had breakfast. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is over there. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand at the entrance of the camp, squinting through the dry wind. No one welcomes you. There's no sign, just a pair of older boys, both lean as whipcord, arms folded like they've been waiting all day to be disappointed by you. One of them spits near your foot. You're still clutching a little satchel. Maybe you packed something comforting. Bread, cheese, a family trinket. Doesn't matter. One of the boys snatches it away. You never see it again. They don't ask your name, not because they know it, but because soon enough it won't matter. In Sparta, you are never an individual. You are one of many, a spear point in a long, sharp line. You exist to serve the city, and that starts with stripping you down, literally and otherwise. Clothes off, one barks. There's a pause. A twitch of hesitation. That's enough. A swift practice shove knocks you flat onto the packed earth. Dust kicks up into your nose, your mouth. The boy grabs a dagger. Don't worry, it's not meant for your ribs, not yet. It's for your hair. With grim precision, he starts to shave your head. No ceremony, no mirror, no soap. Just a dull blade and the occasional scrape of your scalp. Hair falls in uneven tufts mixing with the dust. Any vanity you once had? Gone. Any identity, fading fast. They hand you a single scratchy tunic, thin as gauze and stinking of old sweat. It's not new, it belonged to someone else before you, and it might belong to someone else after. If you don't make it, a group of boys your age is waiting nearby. They're already shaved, already broken in. Some glance at you with amusement, others don't glance at all, they're used to this. New faces arrive, some stay, some don't. A shrill whistle cuts through the air. Everyone snaps to attention. You scramble to mimic them, clumsy and out of sync. A lean man, late 20s, sun-baked skin, arms like carved marble, approaches. He's your paidonomos, the overseer of your training. He's not here to comfort you. He's here to mould you like iron in a furnace, break you first, then shape what's left. From this day forward, he intones, you eat when told, speak when asked, and sleep when allowed. You will show no fear, no softness, and no love for comfort. You're a child no longer. You're a tool of Sparta, and tools don't cry. Behind him, a wooden tablet hangs on the wall. Burned into it are 3 words in ancient Doric. Molon Labe. Come and take them. It's not a motivational poster. It's a dare to the world. You shuffle along to your assigned barracks. It's not what you'd call a room. More like a large dusty box with low rafters and the scent of stale sweat, boiled barley, and something that might be despair. There are no beds, just straw, and not the soft golden hay you might picture from storybooks. This is sharp, pokey, and mostly dirt. A boy beside you grins, missing a front tooth. Don't lie on your back, he whispers. Scorpions like warm spines. That night you lie awake, itchy from the tunic, hairless head still stinging, stomach growling. The walls are thin. You can hear muffled sobbing. Somewhere someone vomits quietly. But you don't make a sound. Because sound invites attention, and attention invites bruises. Historically, the Spartan Agoge truly began at age 7, and though you're older now, let's pretend, because you'd never pass as 7, you're being inducted as if for the first time. Spartans believed that hardship forged strength, and luxury softened the soul. Their entire society revolved around producing the perfect soldier, silent, deadly, loyal to the last. And here's the kicker. Scholars still debate whether the harshest parts of the Agoge were exaggerated or not. Ancient sources like Plutarch loved to lean into the melodrama, and it's unclear whether every boy lived this exact nightmare or if it was more of a cultural ideal. But there's enough archaeological and literary consensus to know one thing. It wasn't a summer camp. As the sun sets over the rugged mountains, your first day has barely begun. Your feet are cracked, your scalp raw, and your body aching from a simple initiation. There's no pillow, no dinner, just the sound of boys twitching in their sleep, or pretending to so they don't get picked for a midnight chore. Somewhere outside a wolf howls, or maybe it's just another boy being disciplined. Either way, you roll over on your prickly straw mat, eyes wide open, heart thudding with a simple, undeniable truth. You're not going to last long here. Morning in the Spartan camp doesn't come with gentle light or cheerful birdsong. It comes with a sharp whistle, a barked command, and the sudden, painful realization that you've spent the night curled on a bed of thorns masquerading as straw. Your back itches, your scalp itches, your tunic feels like it's made of mosquito wings woven with regret. You scramble up because everyone else does. And here, being last isn't just embarrassing. It's dangerous. Your legs are stiff, your feet are numb, and there's a faint drizzle of drool on your cheek. Don't wipe it. Someone might see. You're herded, yes, herded, into a courtyard of hard-packed earth where the morning wind doesn't refresh you. It bites. Cold and dry, it slips under your thin tunic and makes your bones want to curl up and shiver. But shivering is a sign of weakness, and weakness gets attention. You stand in rows now. Someone, somewhere, yells something in harsh Doric Greek. You don't understand it, not really, but you know better than to ask. Beside you, a boy flinches slightly. A moment later, a fist clips the back of his head. He doesn't flinch again. One of the older trainers steps forward. He's carrying a knife. You tense, but no, it's not for you this time. Not yet. Hair, he says. He grabs a boy from the front row, spins him around and starts shaving his head anew. The blade scrapes skin, slicing away not just hair but the comfort of individuality. Then another boy, then another. When it's your turn, you kneel. You already had the worst of it yesterday, so this is just the second round. Like cleaning a plate you never wanted to use, the blade runs over your skull again. The skin feels tight, exposed to the morning sun. Your ears burn. And then, your name is gone. Not officially, of course. Somewhere your mother still says it to herself when she prays. But in here, your boy, or maybe you, sometimes if you're lucky, it. There is no ceremony, no new name, no friendly tap on the back, just the expectation that you won't complain, and if you do, well, there are consequences. Spartans were obsessed with conformity. Hair was symbolic, long and flowing for warriors, shaved clean for those in training. By removing your hair, they remove your vanity, your softness, and any lingering sense of civilian life. You're not meant to feel like a person anymore. You're a cog in a meat grinder powered by discipline and old cheese. Speaking of cheese, breakfast, someone shouts. You don't walk to breakfast, you march. Limping? Jog faster. Blisters? They'll pop on their own. Hunger? Excellent. That's how you know you're doing it right. You're lined up outside a smoky stone hut that smells like burnt fat and feet. Inside, an older boy ladles out something that looks like boiled rainwater mixed with mud. This is melazomos, black broth, the famous Spartan staple. The ingredients are simple. Pig's blood, vinegar, and whatever meat scraps no one else wanted, served warm, or at least not cold. There's also a wedge of barley bread so hard you could use it to scrape moss off a stone. You stare into your bowl. The surface shimmers with oil. There's a weird chunk floating in the middle. You don't ask what it is. You eat in silence. That's not a metaphorical silence. You're forbidden to speak during meals. Not even a polite cough. If someone drops a spoon, everyone looks at them as if they've just insulted the gods. And here's the twist. You're not eating to enjoy. You're eating to endure. Spartan meals aren't designed for comfort. They're designed to humble you. Some historians argue that melazomos was more symbolic than widespread, a ritual dish for warriors and elders rather than a daily meal. But even if you were occasionally granted olives or figs, the point remained. Food was fuel, not pleasure. A boy across from you gets caught chewing too slowly. One of the enforcers yanks his bowl away. No second chances. You look down and speed up, trying to ignore the way the broth seems to wiggle when you move the bowl. The bread tastes like dust and vinegar. You swallow hard. You don't want to know what's in the broth. Honestly, you can't even guess. You just keep eating because stopping feels like failure. By the end of it, your stomach's not full, it's just confused. Was that food? A punishment? A dare? You're dismissed with a wave. Outside, the sun's higher now. It's going to be a hot day. You're sweating already, the shaved skin of your scalp prickling under the sun. There's no shade. Not here. Shade is for the weak. So are hats, shoes, and dignity. Another boy, he looks about 12, leans over and whispers, "The vinegar keeps the blood from clotting. That's why it's black." He grins like he's told you the secret to eternal life. Then he jogs off. That's your new reality. A place where boys know more about animal blood than bedtime stories. Where meals are tests, silence is virtue, and your identity is an obstacle to be removed. You shuffle back toward the training yard, hands sticky with dried broth, lips tingling from salt. You're not sure whether it's the vinegar or the beginning of sunburn. The whistle blows again. You line up. You're expected to forget breakfast, forget comfort, and forget your name. You belong to Sparta now. There's no such thing as easing into the Spartan Agoge. No ramp-up week, no getting-to-know-you activities. This isn't summer camp, this is war prep. You learn that quickly, about 5 minutes after finishing your oily, blood-spattered breakfast. You're ushered out into the main training yard again, the sun now high enough to feel personal. It pierces your scalp like 1,000 tiny pins, made sharper by the fresh shave. Sand and grit whirl in the air as the boys are arranged into pairs. One of the older enforcers, lean as a whip and just as forgiving, shouts a command you don't quite understand. But you do understand the punch. It hits your chest before you even realize you're supposed to defend yourself. You stumble back. Another blow, this time to your side. The air leaves your lungs in a wheeze that sounds embarrassingly like a squeak toy. "On your feet," someone growls. You scramble upright just in time to be tackled again. Welcome to combat training. The Spartan philosophy was simple. Train like war is coming tomorrow, because it probably is. You aren't taught technique first. You're taught endurance. If you cry, you're mocked. If you complain, you're punished. And if you show even a flicker of softness, you're used as a demonstration dummy for the others. Mainstream historical records confirm that Spartan boys trained daily in physical combat, often supervised by older warriors who were less coaches than drill sergeants with vendettas. Their goal wasn't finesse, it was conditioning, repetition, resilience. If you bled, you kept going. If you broke something, you were expected to bind it and carry on. Medical care? That's for helots. Speaking of which, those silent, watchful servants in the corner, they're helots, the enslaved population that kept Spartan society running. You notice one of them glancing at your bleeding knuckle as he sweeps the edge of the yard. His eyes meet yours, then drop. You're not sure what you see there. Pity, maybe? Disgust? Or just someone who's seen 100 boys like you come and go? You try to breathe deeply, but the air is dry and your nose is full of dust. Your sparring partner, a wiry boy with a nose that's already been broken twice this week, grins as he circles you. He's limping slightly, but it doesn't slow him down. You throw a clumsy punch. He ducks it with ease and smacks your ear in return. That's when you realise they're not just allowed to hit you, they're expected to. In the Agoge, older boys were encouraged to dominate younger ones both physically and socially. It was seen as character building. Authority was handed out like a sharpened stick. Whoever was toughest held power, and if you wanted respect, you earned it through pain. You hear a whistle, everyone freezes. The Paidonomos has returned. He strolls down the line, hands behind his back, face unreadable. He stops in front of one boy, a stocky lad who's clearly still holding back. Maybe he's scared. Maybe he's tired. Or maybe, like you, he just didn't grow up brawling his way through breakfast. The Paidonomos nods to an older teen. A punch lands square in the boy's stomach. He drops with a grunt. "You will fight," the trainer says quietly, "or you will suffer worse." And just like that, the pace resumes. There are no padded gloves, no helmets, just fists, elbows, knees, and the occasional improvised knee to gut. You learn quickly to stay low, move fast, and never take your eyes off your opponent. But you also learn something else. The pain isn't the worst part, it's the humiliation. The knowledge that everyone is watching, judging, remembering. Your partner finally lets up after what feels like an hour but's probably 20 minutes. You're both sweaty, bruised, and slightly dizzy. Someone's nose is bleeding, might be yours. You're given a short break to fetch water from a communal basin. It's lukewarm and faintly metallic, but you drink like it's nectar from the gods. A boy near you is cupping water in his hand, rinsing out a mouthful of blood. He spits into the dirt and mutters, "Better than the broth." A nearby instructor smacks him across the back of the head for speaking out of turn. "Drink, don't talk." That rule isn't about manners, it's about control. You're learning discipline, they say. But really you're learning fear. Fear of speaking, fear of weakness, fear of the ever-watchful eyes that measure every breath you take. Experts still debate whether the Agoge was as physically violent as ancient sources suggest, or whether later authors exaggerated its severity to romanticize Spartan toughness. Some even propose that Spartans themselves cultivated their brutal image as a psychological weapon. But when you're here, getting punched in the gut by a boy 2 years younger than you, it hardly matters whether history remembered it accurately. The bruises feel pretty real. By mid-morning your limbs are trembling, not just from exertion, but from the sheer effort of staying upright. You smell like sweat, fear, and something metallic that might be your own blood. The final drill of the session is a group push. All the boys form a line and attempt to shove a massive log across the yard using only their shoulders. It's not really about the log, it's about seeing who gives up first, who trips, who groans, who's not ready. You dig your shoulder into the bark, it scrapes your skin raw, your legs strain, sand grits in your teeth. You don't move the log, not even an inch. But the boy beside you shouts, "He's not trying," and suddenly 3 hands are shoving you aside. You land hard, there's laughter, then silence, then the whistle, back in line. No time to process, no time to recover. Your reward? Another round of combat, this time with a wooden staff. Splinters optional, bruises guaranteed, and through it all a single thought lodges in the back of your aching skull. This was just the warm-up. You're barely standing after the combat drills, muscles twitching in places you didn't know had muscles, and just when you think someone might throw you a break, a crust of bread, a moment in the shade, they call for another inspection. Not of your bruises, which are coming along quite nicely, not of your fighting form, of your feet. You line up with the others, heels together in the dust, toes spread like it's a military fashion show for sad, barefoot children. A trainer, different from the last, bulkier, with a nose bent permanently to one side, paces the row. He's carrying a stick. Not to hit with this time, just to prod. "Dirt is fine," he mutters. "Blisters are good. But weakness?" He stops in front of a boy whose big toe is swollen and red. A quick, hard tap from the stick, and the boy winces. That's all it takes. The trainer makes a mark on a wax tablet and moves on, and then he's in front of you. He crouches slightly, lifts your left foot with the stick and tuts. Your heel is cracked, your arch is raw, and honestly you don't even want to see the state of your toes. He doesn't say anything, just lowers the foot and moves on. That might be good. Or it might mean they're watching to see how long you'll last before it splits open like overripe fruit. You see, Spartan culture prized pain, but not the glamorous, glorious spear-in-the-chest kind. No, they loved the quiet, humiliating pain, the kind that teaches you to endure, not scream, and nowhere is that clearer than with your feet. Spartans rarely wore sandals. Even in winter, they believed going barefoot toughened the skin and the spirit. Walking across jagged stones, good for the soul. Frostbite, a lesson in resilience. Most historians agree that Spartan boys trained and travelled barefoot as part of their upbringing, even during colder seasons. It wasn't just cost-cutting, it was ideological. Shoes made you soft. Soft was weak. Weak didn't survive. Some researchers still debate just how barefoot Spartan society was, though. Were the elite truly shoeless year-round? Or was this more of a philosophical ideal than a practical rule? The jury's out on whether every Spartan went shoeless through snow, but here, in this camp, there's no doubt. You march everywhere on calloused soles. No one helps you if you limp, no one wraps your toes, no one tells you, "Take it easy." That's Helot talk. That's Athens talk. That's not Sparta. As the sun climbs, you're herded out for a mandatory jog. Not a run, not a sprint. A long, steady, painful jog. You move as a group, in perfect rhythm. Anyone who falls out of sync gets a swift smack from the rear guard. The path winds over gravel, up a low ridge, then through a patch of thorny scrub. Your foot lands squarely on something sharp. It could be a splintered root, or maybe a small rock carved into a perfect triangle of suffering. You grunt but keep going. You can feel the blood starting to well beneath your soul. A boy stumbles behind you, he yelps, and then he's yanked out of line by the wrist and dragged back to camp for correction. You don't look back. You don't even blink. At the ridge's peak, you're allowed to pause, just for a minute. You lean forward, hands on knees, panting, sweat dripping from your chin onto the baked earth. Around you, the hills stretch out like waves frozen in mid-crash, ochre and olive green. In the distance, Mount Tagitas looms like a slumbering giant. That's where the exposure pits are, where unwanted babies were said to be left to die. You don't dwell on that. You just hope your lungs stop burning soon. The break ends with a hand signal, not a word. You start back down the slope, rocks digging into your raw feet, every step a lesson in pain management. Back at camp, you're ordered to wash your feet, not with soap, just a splash from the communal bucket. It's muddy and smells like everyone's week-old regret. You crouch, splash some water over your toes, and glance at the boy beside you. He's methodically scrubbing a bloodstain from his instep using a stick. He notices your look and shrugs. "Better clean than infected," he says with a lopsided grin. You wonder briefly when infected became part of casual conversation for someone your age. Your feet still throb as you're marched to the courtyard for evening drills, the sun setting casting long shadows like spears over the cracked ground. Your feet are cracked too, and your calves, and probably your resolve. But the real test of today isn't just the jogging or the combat or even the barefoot bloodletting, it's standing still. Absolutely still. You're lined up and told not to move, not even to blink it seems. This is a test of discipline. A fly lands on your arm, you resist the urge to swat it. A bead of sweat rolls down your cheek and into your collar. You let it. In Sparta, control over your body was control over your fear. If you could stand without fidgeting, you were worthy of marching. If not, well, someone would teach you. The drill ends without fanfare. You're dismissed with a nod. There's no applause, no water break, no great job, champ. Just the quiet shuffle of blistered feet on packed dirt. You've made it through another portion of the day. Your reward? Dinner, another bowl of broth, slightly saltier than breakfast. Your spoon has a splinter. You don't care. And just before sleep, you're given another inspection. This time, a trainer lifts your foot and looks closely. "Getting tougher," he mutters. It's almost a compliment. Sleep in the Spartan camp doesn't arrive gently. It waits until your body has absolutely nothing left to give, then creeps in like a thief. Even then, it's light, twitchy, and easily scared off by the creak of a door or the sharp bark of a command. You might have hoped for a little rest, maybe a real blanket, even a straw mat that hasn't been peed on by someone with nerves too frayed to hold it overnight. But no, you're expected to sleep on what you gathered. Reeds, bundled by hand and knotted together with whatever grass you could scavenge on your first day. That's your bed. If it scratches, good. If it bugs you, even better. Comfort, as you've probably noticed by now, is viewed here as a moral failure. You lie flat, hands on your chest, staring up at the low rafters. The boy next to you snores like a goat. Another murmurs in his sleep, some name, maybe a mother, maybe a dog. Someone gets up to pee. He tries to tiptoe. He fails. You're not sleeping, not really. You're resting in short, paranoid pulses. Every creak, every cough jerks you half awake. Your muscles are tight from the day's drills, your foot still bleeding slightly from the rock that tried to eat it earlier. You shift slightly and feel a stab in your lower back, probably a reed, or maybe your own guilt for not punching harder in training. Spartan boys, historically, were expected to collect their own bedding as a survival exercise. Sources suggest they weren't provided with blankets, even in winter, and had to grow used to the cold. They were trained to sleep lightly, always ready to rise and fight at a moment's notice. This is not a place for dreaming. The air smells faintly of sweat, blood, and barley. A soft breeze slips through the cracks in the wall, carrying with it the faint howl of wind across the plain. It might be beautiful in another context. Here, it's just another reminder that you are very far from home. Then comes the kick. It's not hard, just sharp enough to wake you. A trainer doing rounds, making sure no one's rolled over or curled up. Spartan boys were supposed to sleep flat on their backs, like corpses prepared for burial. You shift into position. Try to relax your clenched jaw. Try to stop clenching every muscle like they might betray you. It's morning before you know it. Or what counts as morning here, grey light bleeding through the slats, a rooster crowing somewhere, and a cold hand shaking your shoulder. You sit up and immediately regret it. Your neck pops like an old cartwheel. Your back screams in reed language. Your legs mutter something vulgar. Another day begins. The first task, regather your reeds. That's right, you don't get to reuse them. What are you, an Athenian? No, you pick fresh ones. The theory goes that it keeps you humble and connected to the land. The reality is that it gives your hands plenty of little cuts to sting throughout the day. You hobble down to the riverbank with the others, bare feet cold in the morning dew. The reeds sway gently, green and mocking. You bend down to harvest, your back aching, knees popping like popcorn. A boy next to you mutters, "Better than fighting." You nod. He's wrong, but you nod. The reeds are bundled under your arm, dripping slightly as you limp back to the barracks. You're given 5 minutes to arrange your bedding. Too thick and you're lazy. Too thin and you're weak. Someone inspects your mat. Shrugs. Moves on. That shrug is the closest thing to approval you've received in 24 hours. Mid-morning the drills resume. This time you practice formations, lining up shoulder to shoulder with wooden shields, trying to form a solid wall. It's harder than it sounds, especially when you're surrounded by boys who are just as exhausted as you but twice as angry. The shields clack together. You're pushed from behind. The boy in front of you stumbles and falls, and the whole line collapses like a row of unsteady stools. You land hard on your elbow, pain shoots up your arm. You try not to yelp. Pathetic, one of the trainers spits. The Persians would have cut your heads off before lunch. You climb to your feet, shake out your arm, reset. Do it again. This happens 5 times, then 10. By the 15th, you're sweating so much your tunic is clinging to you like damp seaweed. You can't feel your feet anymore, which is probably for the best. Scholars remain divided on how much of Spartan training focused on coordinated phalanx movements versus raw conditioning, but there's agreement that the earlier years of the Agoge emphasized unity, boys learning to move as one, think as one, fight as one. Individuality, that's for poets. Eventually the formations end. You're lined up once more. A trainer paces in front of you, holding a staff. You sleep on reeds, he says, because life gives you thorns. He pauses, waiting for someone to snicker. No one does. You've learned. You learn to rest uncomfortably, he continues, so that when battle comes the field feels like a featherbed. It's a lie, of course, but it's the kind of lie Spartans lived by. Simple, sharp, and painful enough to feel like truth. Your stomach growls. Lunch is still a rumour. Your mat of reeds is waiting back in the barracks. Tonight, you'll lie down on it again. You'll stare at the ceiling. You'll try to sleep while ignoring the bruises blooming across your back like dark flowers. And you'll try not to roll over. Because in Sparta, even in sleep, you're being watched. The sun climbs higher, and with it comes your next lesson. Silence. Not just the absence of noise, but a deep, eerie, all-consuming quiet that buzzes in your ears louder than shouting ever could. You're shuffled into the communal eating area once again, though calling it a hall would be generous. It's more of a long, shaded corridor with cracked stone benches and a table that looks like it's seen one too many elbows slammed into it in frustration. No one speaks, not the instructors, not the boys, not even the helots who ladle out another round of that infamously unappetizing melazomos. The black broth steams gently in its bowl, looking somehow even less appealing than yesterday. Maybe it's the angle, maybe it's the quiet. As you sit, spine straight and eyes lowered, you remember the warning, speak during meals, and you risk losing it entirely. Not just your meal, but a little dignity too. A trainer walks the aisle slowly, hands behind his back. He doesn't need to say anything. His presence alone is enough. You lift your spoon and take a sip. The broth tastes exactly like you remember. Bloody, sour, and weirdly metallic. Like chewing on a pocket full of old coins. You chew the bread cautiously, half worried it'll chip a tooth. A boy across from you accidentally knocks over his bowl. The sound of it clattering to the floor is a bomb in the room. No one breathes. The boy doesn't move. He stares at the puddle, panic flaring behind his eyes. A trainer appears beside him in less than a heartbeat. He says nothing, just gestures toward the wall. The boy stands and walks stiffly away, leaving the mess for a helot to clean. You don't see him for the rest of the afternoon. Historically, meals in the Spartan Agoge were indeed expected to be conducted in strict silence. According to ancient accounts, boys were only allowed to speak if asked a direct question, typically something moral, philosophical, or trickily designed to expose their thinking. It wasn't just about etiquette, it was about self-control. The Spartans believed that restraint in speech mirrored restraint in battle. If you couldn't control your tongue, how could you control your spear? Scholars still debate whether this silence was enforced at every meal or mainly during ceremonial or communal gatherings. But one thing's clear, silence in Sparta wasn't golden, it was mandatory. After the meal, you're instructed to stay seated. A trainer finally speaks. Who among you would steal bread from a friend if it meant survival? The silence holds thick and heavy. One brave soul raises his hand, slowly. The trainer turns to him. And what would Sparta say of you? The boy hesitates. That I am resourceful? A beat, then a nod. Correct. You blink. Wait, what? He continues. Sparta values cunning as well as strength. But be warned, be caught, and you are not clever. You are sloppy. You swallow hard. So that's the game. You're not just meant to be obedient, you're meant to be strategically disobedient. Smart enough to bend the rules, but only if you can do it without getting caught. This isn't a moral code, it's a skill test disguised as ethics. The line between right and wrong in Sparta is thinner than your soup. The rest of the meal passes in unbroken silence. You avoid eye contact, chew carefully, and try not to think about how your tongue itches to say anything. A joke, a groan, even just, ugh. Afterward, you're brought into a shaded colonnade for quiet drills. That sounds relaxing, it's not. You're paired up again, this time not for combat, but for endurance. You must hold a squat position, back straight against the wall, arms extended. No speaking, no grunting, just quiet pain. A single cough can earn you an extra minute. A groan, 5. And if you break posture, everyone suffers. It becomes a psychological game. Who twitches first? Who breaks the silence? A fly lands on your cheek. You let it crawl. You try not to breathe. You try not to exist. Eventually, mercifully, the drill ends. Your legs are trembling, your arms numb, but you haven't made a sound. That apparently is the goal, to suffer elegantly. And here's the kicker. No one congratulates you. Because Spartan silence wasn't about praise, it was about internalizing the standard. You don't need rewards. You should want to be silent. You should crave invisibility. Back at the barracks, you're given free time, but only in the way a prisoner is allowed to pace the yard. You may sit, you may not sleep, you may whisper, but only under the breath. And if anyone older walks by, you're silent again. A group of older boys passes. They glance down at your group. New meat, soft faces, skinny arms. One stops and leans down to your eye level. What's the punishment for idle chatter? You hesitate. Silence, he says, then slaps your face lightly. Not enough to bruise, just enough to sting. Then he walks away. You sit back, fingers pressed to your cheek, face burning with more than just pain. That's the Spartan way. You're not told to be quiet. You're trained to want it. You glance around the barracks, the reed mats, the dusty beams above. This place is a machine, and silence is one of its most precise gears. You lie down later, not because you're ready to sleep, but because it's allowed. The stillness around you is profound, not peaceful. No, it's heavy, expectant, like a bowstring drawn taut and waiting to snap. You close your eyes, and you say nothing, because here in Sparta, silence isn't the absence of sound. It's proof you've learned something. It's not just during the day that the Spartan training camp demands silence. Night has its own rituals, and none of them involve comfort. But at least this time, you know what to expect. Hard floor, scratchy reeds, the chorus of snoring and midnight shifting bodies. You close your eyes and drift into what might be sleep, light, shallow, and haunted by the sharp taste of black broth still clinging to your teeth. Then the foot nudges your ribs. You flinch awake. It's not even dawn. There's barely enough light to make out the shape of the trainer crouching beside you, his voice low and steady. Rise. Time to gather your bedding. Again? Yes. again. Each morning begins with the same unspoken message. You are not entitled to rest. What you lay upon is earned daily, and that, like everything else in the Agoge, must come from your own effort. No one brings you comfort. You build it, poorly. You trudge outside with the other boys down toward the riverbanks. Mist clings to the ground. The reeds glisten with dew, mocking you with their elegance. You crouch to cut a new bundle, fingers already raw from yesterday. The boy next to you whispers, "Reeds are better when wet, less brittle." You nod. He's right. You file that away, along with all the other survival tips no one formally teaches you, but everyone quietly shares. They're like secrets passed down in silence, pain-encoded wisdom. Once you return, map bundled under your arm, you face the next part of the morning, physical inspection. This one isn't about feet or posture. This is about how you've handled the cold, because Spartan boys aren't given cloaks in winter. In fact, ancient sources suggest boys were issued one tunic per year, no matter the season. If it wore out, too bad. If you were cold, good. That's how you learn to adapt, and adapt you must. You stand in the morning chill, the air sharp against your bare arms. The wind teases the hem of your tunic, which does absolutely nothing to keep you warm. You're not supposed to shiver. Shivering is weakness, the body's betrayal. So you focus on your breath, your balance, the way your feet press into the dust. You make your body a statue, a very cold, very uncomfortable statue. An older boy walks the line, checking each of you. He doesn't speak. He just watches for tremors, clenched jaws, darting eyes. A boy 3 down from you sneezes. Wrong move. The enforcer appears like a shadow, silent and swift. He pulls the boy aside. You hear the thwack of a wooden switch and a muffled yelp. Lesson delivered. You, meanwhile, focus on your toes. They've gone from numb to tingling to nothing at all. You imagine you're not cold. You pretend the breeze is warm. You imagine sunshine instead of this grey bone-chilling dawn. You are, in a sense, hallucinating your way through survival. The cold is a lesson in self-mastery. Spartans believed that comfort bred fragility, and fragility was unforgivable. They trained their children to endure weather like they endured war, without complaint, without adornment, without shoes. Experts still debate whether Spartan children truly spent entire winters in minimal clothing, or whether this was more of a rite of passage during select years. But in your case, it feels very real, especially when the wind finds its way under your tunic like a particularly vengeful ghost. Training begins shortly after. Today's theme, wrestling. You're paired with someone slightly smaller than you, which should be good news. It isn't. He's faster, sharper, and apparently has no qualms about twisting your elbow in ways it was never meant to bend. You grunt. He smirks. The trainers watch. Spartan wrestling wasn't about pins or points. It was about learning to fight close, to endure pain, and to dominate without hesitation. Eye gouging wasn't strictly allowed, but sometimes it just happened. And if you complained, well, why would you even be here? You both grapple for control in the dusty courtyard, tunic stained with sweat and dirt. The earth is cold and hard beneath you. You try to breathe through your nose to stay quiet, but every move makes your ribs ache. A hold, a shift. Then your face is in the dirt and your partner is pressing down hard. You don't cry out. You tap once softly. It's unclear whether that's even an accepted signal, but he lets go anyway. You roll onto your back, coughing dust, and hear the trainer mutter, "Better." Later, you're marched back to the barracks for a brief rest. Not sleep, just sitting. Your knees are scraped. Your shoulder stings. But oddly, you feel something close to pride. You made it through morning drills. You didn't cry. You didn't sneeze. You didn't freeze. It's a low bar. But in Sparta, low bars are how you measure growth. You sit in silence, watching steam rise from your arms. The sun is out now, but the chill still lingers. A boy across from you is trying to patch a hole in his tunic with a bit of thread he scavenged from a sack. It's not even his tunic, it was passed down. No one has a new one. The fraying, the tears, the fading colour. These are marks of age, endurance, and, oddly, honour. In a society that viewed simplicity as virtue and hardship as a gift, a ragged tunic wasn't a problem. It was proof you belonged. And as you sit there, stiff and shivering slightly, you realise no one is going to make you warmer. You either learn to bear the cold, or you don't last. By now, you know the rhythm. Pain, silence, hunger, discipline. It wraps around you like that awful tunic, scratchy, too tight, and utterly inescapable. So when lunchtime arrives, you don't feel relief. You feel caution. Because in Sparta, even a meal can be a test. You line up once again for rations. Same setup, same smoky hut, same surly older boys ladling out broth with a kind of grim satisfaction, as though every bowl delivered is a small personal victory. One spoonful of melas zomos, one dent in your willpower. You sit, you eat, you do not speak. But today, something changes. Your stomach growls louder than usual. Your eyes drift involuntarily toward the basket of bread sitting just out of reach. It's meant for the elders, those boys who've survived long enough to be trusted with knives and opinions, but it smells fresh. Not like the rock-hard barley slab you were handed. This bread is different, softer. You can almost taste it. And that's when you feel the tap on your shoulder. It's the boy from earlier, the one who told you wet reeds are less brittle. He leans close, whispering through the smallest movement of his lips. You want to eat tonight? You blink. He nods toward the storage hut. No guards, just a door, slightly ajar. A basket inside, barely visible in the dark. Cheese, real cheese, maybe olives. A lump of barley cake so fresh it might actually bend. You steal it, he says, or you go hungry. Your brain lights up with alarm bells. Surely this is a trap. But then again, Spartan boys were expected to steal to survive. That wasn't just tolerated, it was encouraged. It proved cunning, resourcefulness, the ability to adapt. But, and this is crucial, if you were caught, punishment was immediate, public, and painful. You remember the boy who spilled his bowl. You remember the switch. So the rules are, steal if you can, but never get caught. If you do, no one will argue you were wrong to try, just that you were bad at it. Ancient accounts confirm that theft was woven into the Agoge as a lesson in stealth and survival, not morality. The logic was twisted, but brutally clear. Sparta didn't want honest boys. It wanted clever survivors. You make your choice. That night, after evening drills and before curfew, you slip away. Carefully. Quietly. The shadows are on your side. The other boys are distracted, some whispering, some licking their wounds. The guards are elsewhere. Your heart pounds in your chest. Not a thud, but a flutter. Panic without movement. You creep to the hut. It smells like salt and straw and aging cheese. The door creaks slightly. You freeze. Silence. You reach inside, fingers grazing something soft and sticky. Honey cake. You nearly moan. You pull it free, wrap it in your tunic, and slink away like a cat that's somehow learned shame. Back at your mat, you unwrap your prize and take the smallest bite. It's chewy, sweet, and not even remotely nutritious. But you don't care. It's flavour. Then the whistle blows. You freeze. Lights, footsteps. Someone shouts. You're yanked up by the back of your tunic. Your heart drops to your toes. A hand grabs the bundle, unwraps it. The honey cake glistens under torchlight. They caught you. What follows isn't a speech, no righteous fury, just orders. You're dragged into the centre of camp. Boys gather, some with tired curiosity, some with genuine sympathy. The punishment? Lashes. Not to your back, but to your palms. You kneel, arms out. The switch strikes and pain shoots through your wrists like fire. 1, 2, 3. You bite your lip. 4, 5. You don't cry. 6. And then it's over. The cake? Taken? You? Sore. But something has changed. The boy who whispered to you nods as you limp past. A look of respect. You did it. Badly. But you tried. Later that night, as you lay flat on your mat, hands throbbing, you hear a whisper. The first time always hurts the worst. You don't know who said it. You don't answer. But the words hang there, warm in the cold air. Experts still debate the scope and frequency of sanctioned theft in Spartan training. Was it limited to food? Did it extend to tools, clothing, knowledge? The sources vary. But here, tonight, your hands burning and your stomach still growling, it hardly matters. What matters is that you understand the unspoken rule now. There is no reward for obedience, only punishment for failure. You stare at the rafters until the torchlight fades. You roll your fingers gently, testing the pain. You're hungry, you're sore, but you're still here. Dawn comes with a bitter breeze and the crunch of boots over gravel. You wake up already aching, palms tender, thighs sore, mouth dry. The sweet aftertaste of the stolen honey cake is long gone, replaced by the dull ache of bruised pride and hunger. There's no time to dwell, no time to lick wounds, physical or emotional. The trainers are already calling you out into formation. You stand, shoes still a distant luxury, and feel every scrape, every sting from the night before. Today's lesson isn't about combat or silence. It's about the cold. You're herded to the edge of camp, where the morning fog clings to the ground like wet cloth. The wind cuts through your tunic like it's not even there. Your arms break out in goosebumps, your teeth chatter before you can stop them. And that's when the trainer turns and says, "Take it off." There's a long pause. A few of the boys hesitate, but the instruction is clear. Tunic's off. You strip yours off and hold it folded in your arms, your skin exposed to the morning chill. Your body is trembling now, but you try to suppress it. Around you, the other boys are doing the same, some with confidence, others with barely concealed dread. You stand there, naked to the air, your body stiff with cold, and then the drills begin. Running. Not fast, not furious, just long, steady. Enough to warm your blood if you're lucky, enough to break you if you're not. The ground is unforgiving. Pebbles bite into your feet. The chill doesn't leave. It follows you like a jealous ghost, digging into your shoulders, nipping at your ears. The idea behind this, you're told later, is discipline. Spartan boys were trained to endure weather extremes without complaint, often going unclothed or underdressed in conditions that would make even hardened soldiers wince. Cold wasn't an obstacle, it was a tool. It separated the weak from the worthy. You've stopped feeling your toes again, you keep running. Eventually the whistle blows and you come to a wheezing halt. Your breath escapes in ragged white clouds. Your chest heaves. Your feet are burning from the inside out. Frost, blisters, bruises all blurring into one dull throb. But you're not done. "Form a line," comes the order. You do, wobbly and numb, clutching your tunic but not allowed to put it back on yet. The trainer walks down the line, glancing at each of you. "Did you shiver?" he asks one boy. The boy says nothing. Wrong answer. A sharp crack from a stick across his back leaves a red welt. "Did you shiver?" he asks you. You meet his gaze. You think about lying. But your jaw is still clenched too tight to speak. Another boy down the line smirks. He's not shivering. Or maybe he's just better at hiding it. This entire ritual is a test, not just of the body but of the mask. How well can you hide your discomfort? How deeply can you bury the truth of your suffering? You get your tunic back only when ordered. Even then, it feels like a reward you didn't quite earn. Back at the barracks, you press your feet to the earth to try and bring sensation back. You flex your fingers, wrap your arms around your chest. The cold lingers inside your bones. The boy beside you rubs his toes and mutters, "Last winter, they broke a boy's fingers because he kept hiding them in his sleeves." You nod slowly. Makes sense. Spartans weren't just training soldiers, they were building statues that bled. They wanted men who would run into battle without armour if told, who would face the enemy naked in a snowstorm and call it invigorating. Scholars remain divided on how extreme these cold endurance trials truly were. Some argue they've been exaggerated by later authors, romanticising Spartan brutality. Others believe that the rituals were very real and very intentional. The truth likely lies somewhere in between, an environment where comfort was an enemy and cold a constant companion. The rest of the day is subdued. No wrestling, no weapons, just chores and a lingering chill in your marrow. You're tasked with hauling bundles of wood from the edge of the forest. It would be easier with shoes, or gloves, or sleeves, but no one offers those. Instead, you carry the rough bark under your arms, the splinters digging into skin, the cold wind still hissing past your ears. You march, you lift, you haul, because that's what's asked of you, because that's what survival looks like here. In the afternoon, you're called for a lecture. That sounds nice, doesn't it? A sit-down, a chance to use your brain. It's not. You kneel in rows in the dirt, hands on thighs, back straight. An older instructor stands before you, wrapped in a wool cloak, clearly not part of your lot. He speaks about endurance, about how a true Spartan feels no pain, shows no fear, welcomes the hardship. He points to the mountains. "You want warmth?" he asks. "The sun lives at the top. Climb for it. A metaphor, probably. Or maybe he really expects you to climb a mountain one day, naked and angry. Wouldn't be the weirdest thing that's happened so far. As the sun dips lower, the breeze finally eases. You're allowed to return to the barracks. You settle back onto your reed mat, still damp from the morning mist. Your body is sore, your fingers red and tender, your feet a landscape of tiny traumas. But you didn't complain, you didn't hide, you didn't shiver, at least not where anyone could see. You curl slightly on your side and whisper to yourself just once. Still here. And in Sparta, that counts as victory. By now, your body knows the drill. Wake up sore, march through pain, eat something barely edible and try not to draw attention. You've stopped questioning it. You no longer wonder if tomorrow will be easier. In Sparta, ease is not on the agenda. This morning starts differently, though. No running, no fighting, no silent meals or icy drills. Instead, you're marched to the upper yard where the older boys, the mature ones, those nearing the end of the Agoge, stand waiting, each holding a staff. You're not sure if that's good or bad, but your gut says, bad. The trainer calls out 2 names. 2 boys step forward. You will demonstrate pancration. A few heads turn, some eyes widen. You've heard of it. Sparta didn't just train warriors, it trained predators, and pancration, a blend of wrestling and boxing, was the closest thing to sanctioned brutality in the ancient world. No armor, few rules, technically no biting or eye gouging, but technically isn't much comfort when your face is on the ground and someone's elbow is somewhere it absolutely shouldn't be. Pancration was a real martial art in ancient Greece, often used in both military and Olympic training. Spartans adopted a version of it, cruder, harsher, less concerned with victory and more concerned with survival. The kind of fighting that teaches you how to win with a broken arm, or how to keep moving after your teeth are somewhere in the dirt. The match begins with no fanfare. Just 2 boys circling each other. One lunges, the other ducks. A fist swings, misses, catches air and grit. You watch as they grapple, fall, roll. It's not elegant. It's not rhythmic. It's real, loud, messy, painful. One lands a knee to the ribs. There's a grunt, low and sharp, a dusty thud as the smaller boy hits the ground. He twists. The other presses down, an elbow, a foot against the neck. The match ends when the boy on the ground stops moving. He's not unconscious, just too sore to fight back. Everyone is silent. The winner stands and spits blood to the side. The trainer nods once. Another pair is called, then another. Eventually your name is shouted, you step forward. Your opponent is lankier but faster. You remember seeing him during foot inspections. He had good balance, bad news. You square up, no bell, no countdown, just eye contact and instinct. He moves first, fast and low, a sweep toward your legs. You jump back, not far enough. His fist grazes your ribs. It stings more than it should. You lunge in return. Your fingers find his shoulder, and for a brief second, you both lose balance. Dust rises around you like smoke. He lands on top. Bad news. You twist, drive your knee upward, and roll. Better. The next few moments are a blur of limbs and dirt and sharp breaths. You don't land anything clean, but you don't fold either. It's messy, unimpressive, but you survive. You don't win, but you don't quit. Eventually the trainer calls it. You both stand, wheezing, coated in dust, bruises blooming like purple flowers. He nods at each of you. No praise, but no punishment either. That's the best outcome you've had all week. The rest of the morning is spent observing, analysing. One boy gets dislocated, another gets knocked out cold. The trainers don't intervene unless it gets too close to permanent damage, and even then, it's more about preserving a future soldier than protecting a child. Experts still debate how much freedom Spartan trainers gave their boys during pancration sessions. Some believe these were tightly controlled, with lessons on restraint and form. Others argue they bordered on blood sport, tests of endurance more than skill. As usual, the truth seems to fall somewhere in the dusty middle. Later, during water break, you sit beside the boy who almost broke your ribs. "You're slow," he mutters, wiping blood from his chin. "You're ugly," you mutter back. He grins. You both laugh, quietly because someone might hear. It's the first real laugh you've had in days. The afternoon drills focus on control, this time with wooden staffs not for battle but for poise. You're told to balance the staff across your shoulders and walk tight circles barefoot on hot stones. You wobble. The boy beside you wobbles harder. A trainer shouts, "Again!" You circle until your vision blurs, until the sky tilts, until you're not sure if you're sweating or crying. This is Sparta. Even walking in circles is designed to break you. By the time evening falls, you're spent. Not just physically. Deep in the bones, soul tired. You've been jabbed, tossed, stomped, spun, and bruised. But there's something else too. You didn't back down. You didn't freeze. You didn't run. That's what they're looking for. At dinner, no one says a word, as usual. But a piece of extra bread appears beside your bowl. No one claims it. No one nods. You eat it without a word. And when you lie down on your mat, fingers curled gently around a new bruise, your last thought before sleep isn't dread or regret. It's this. You made it through pancreation. You didn't win. But you're still here. And that, in Sparta, is winning enough. Your sleep that night is deeper, heavier than usual. Not restful, but the kind of sleep you fall into when your body simply shuts down. When your muscles stage a quiet protest and say, "We're not doing anything else until you let us lie here for a few hours." But of course, in Sparta, your body doesn't get to vote. Before sunrise, you're woken again. This time not with a kick or a barked command, but by a low horn. That's new. Everyone stiffens on their mats. There's a crackle of movement, boys rolling upright, blinking in the pre-dawn haze. Dress. Assemble. Quickly. The trainer's voice is low, sharp. You do as you're told, already bracing yourself. You're not marched to the training yard. You're not taken to the kitchens. You're brought instead to the temple square, the temple of Artemis Orthia. You've heard the name whispered before, sometimes with awe, sometimes with dread. It's not just a place of worship, it's a proving ground. You line up, your tunic sticking to your ribs, your bruises from pancreation still fresh. The sun hasn't yet crested the hills, but torches light the area. Older boys begin to file in, along with citizens, some women, even a few elders leaning on staffs. This is an event, and you're the entertainment. A raised platform sits at the centre of the square. Upon it, bundles of reeds, long, thin, and cruelly flexible, are arranged in ceremonial fashion. Beneath the platform is an altar stained by years of use. Today is diamastigosis, the ritual flogging. A test not of strength or speed, but of endurance and silence. Spartan boys were whipped publicly at this altar, sometimes until they fainted to prove their devotion and discipline. The gods must see your strength. The city must see your worth. You're not first. You stand back and watch as the ritual begins. The first boy steps forward, strips off his tunic, climbs the platform. Two older boys hold his arms outstretched. A priest offers a quick invocation to Artemis. Then the switch comes down. Once, twice, 10 times. The boy doesn't cry out. His legs tremble, but he holds steady. By the 20th strike, his back is red and striped, like the hide of some wounded animal. The crowd is utterly silent. No cheering, no pity, just observation. Some accounts of this ritual suggest it was once part of a brutal contest. Boys whipped until they either fainted or died, with the winner considered the most virtuous. Other scholars argue it became more symbolic over time, a rite of passage that rarely reached lethal extremes. But make no mistake, pain was still the point. When your name is called, your heart sinks into your stomach. You step forward. Your knees are shaking slightly. You remove your tunic. The morning air kisses your skin like a blade. You climb the platform. The crowd isn't jeering. That would be easy to fight. No, they're watching, quietly, judging. A priest mutters something you can't hear. Maybe a blessing, maybe a warning. Then the first lash comes. It's worse than you expect, not just sharp, but deep. A sting that ripples across your spine and into your teeth. You bite your tongue, hard. Second lash, your fingers twitch. Third, your legs shift, almost step away. The trainer shouts, "Still!" You freeze. Fourth lash. Fifth. You begin to float. Not literally, but there's a detachment that comes. A moment where your body feels like it's over there somewhere, getting whipped, while your mind hovers just above, trying not to watch. You lose count around 12. At 15, something cracks. Maybe in the reed, maybe in you. But you don't scream, you don't cry. When it ends, you're helped down. Not kindly, not cruelly, just efficiently. A cloth is pressed to your back. No salve, no bandages. That's for later. Maybe. You dress again. Every movement burns. But the boy next to you pats your shoulder. You didn't scream, he says. You nod, numb. You earned something today. You're not sure what. Respect, scars, a closer seat to the gods? All three, maybe. Later that evening, back at the barracks, the older boys actually speak to you. One tosses you an extra chunk of bread. Hard day, he says. You took it well. It's the Spartan version of a warm hug and a thank you card. You lie down that night face down. There's no other option. Your back is a map of fire and bruises. You press your cheek into the reeds and try not to move. Even breathing feels like a mistake. But there's something beneath the pain, a thrum of pride. You did it. Not well, not gracefully, but you did it. And tomorrow they'll expect more. Because in Sparta, one test only ever leads to the next. You don't move much the next morning. Not out of defiance. Your body simply refuses. Every shift sends a message from your back that translates roughly to absolutely not. The lashes from the ritual are still raw. Your tunic, dry and scratchy as ever, rubs them like sandpaper on sunburn. And yet, as always, the day begins. You stand, you dress, you fall into line with the others. If you're slower today, no one comments. If your breathing is shallow, no one notices. Or rather, no one reacts. Because in Sparta, suffering isn't private. It's just impolite to talk about it. You'll march through the morning haze, past the usual training yards, past the foot inspection fields, past the cold splash washing basins. Today's destination is something else entirely. The lookout tower. It sits at the edge of camp, rising above the dry plain like a lone tooth. It isn't tall, maybe 2 floors, but in a city where architecture is more function than flourish, it's significant. From up there, you can see the whole valley. Fields, forests, the winding Eurotas River, and far beyond, the jagged rise of the Taygetus Mountains. The trainer speaks. Today, you learn how to watch. You squint. Watch what? Then you're given your assignment. Spartan boys were trained not just as fighters, but as observers, spies, quiet trackers. From adolescence onward, they were taught to watch without being seen, to listen without being noticed. This wasn't for entertainment. It was preparation for the krypteia, a shadowy rite of passage that looms ahead like a dark cloud. But you don't know that yet. For now, the task is simple. Sit in the tower and observe. You're paired with 2 others and sent to different corners of the tower. One boy is given a small wax tablet, another a lump of charcoal. You get a short stick and a patch of dirt to scratch in. Mark movement, says the trainer. Count the workers. Note the time of sun. Record changes. You sit, and sit, and sit. For hours. At first you're annoyed. This feels too still, too boring. But eventually something shifts in your brain. You notice the way the farmers rotate shifts, the way the oxen move slower after noon, the odd rhythmic flutter of banners on the city's western wall, the 2 elots who keep disappearing behind the same olive tree. You write it all down, in marks, in numbers, in tiny dirty scratches that make your fingernails ache. You become a watcher, and that's exactly what they want. Historical evidence suggests Spartan boys were trained in forms of early surveillance, learning to gather intelligence without revealing themselves. Some scholars argue this was part of their civic duty. Others suggest it had a darker function, learning to monitor helots, the enslaved majority of the population, who were always seen as a potential threat. The krypteia, the infamous secret police force made up of elite Spartan youths, may have originated from these exercises. Though details are hazy, experts still debate whether the krypteia was a coming-of-age ritual, a military reconnaissance unit, or something far more sinister. Its roots likely trace back to tasks like this: watching silently, judging movements, reporting patterns. You don't know that yet, but your body does. When your shift ends, you descend the stairs. Your legs are stiff, your eyes oddly strained. You never realised how tiring it is to stare for hours without distraction. No talking, no daydreaming, just noticing. You're handed a small bowl of water, not to drink, just to rinse your eyes. Then you're sent into the woods. Wait, what? You and a few others are told to disappear for the rest of the afternoon. Your objective: don't be seen, don't be heard, stay within the perimeter, but no one should know you're there. This is the real test. You slip into the underbrush, crouching low, careful where you step. Every twig feels like a trap. Every rustle might give you away. You lie still behind a fallen log. The earth is cold, damp. Ants crawl across your leg. You don't move. You slow your breathing until it matches the wind. A group of boys passes 20 paces away. You don't twitch. One of them stops, listens, then moves on. You've succeeded. Later you emerge at the edge of camp covered in dirt, leaves in your hair. No one scolds you. No one congratulates you. Just a nod. You did what was asked. That night, during the silent meal, one of the older boys slides a strip of dried meat your way. Just enough to count, not enough to be generous. You blend well, he says under his breath. It's the kind of praise that means more than any ceremony. When you lie down on your reed mat, still sore, still stiff, you find your mind lingering not on the pain, but on the silence of the woods, on the way your heartbeat slowed, how your eyes learned to scan the undergrowth, how the world seemed to hum when you were truly still. You didn't fight today, you didn't run, you didn't even speak. But you passed another test. You became a shadow. And in Sparta, shadows are sometimes more dangerous than soldiers. If yesterday taught you how to disappear, today teaches you what happens when you're seen, and by whom. You wake up to whispers, not gossip. Spartan boys don't gossip. They murmur in code. You catch fragments. Chosen, named, taken upstairs. It's not a ceremony. It's not punishment either. It's something in between. You stretch carefully, bruises flaring up from places you thought had healed. Your body feels like a bad quilt, stitched together with regret and regret's angry cousin, inflammation. Still, you rise, fold your mat, and shuffle into the morning line. That's when your name is called. First, heads turn, eyebrows rise. You're summoned, not to the training yard, not to the punishment pit, to the elders' quarters, a stone chamber, quiet, decorated with rough statues and faded murals, a place rarely mentioned, definitely never visited. Waiting for you is a man in his 40s, lean, weathered, with the kind of stare that makes you forget your own name. He doesn't greet you, doesn't ask how you are. He says simply, "I've chosen you." You blink. "You will be my Eromenos," he says. And the next lesson begins. Not about pain or silence, but about mentorship. Now breathe. This isn't what you think, not in the way modern ears might expect. In ancient Sparta, elite boys were often adopted by older warriors in structured, deeply traditional mentorships. The older man, the Erastes, would guide, train, and, yes, discipline the boy, the Eromenos, with the goal of shaping him into a proper Spartan citizen and soldier. Historical sources confirm that these relationships were both personal and institutional. Some were entirely platonic, others possibly romantic or physical, but always shaped by strict social codes. It wasn't considered scandalous. It was considered essential. You've been chosen, and that changes everything. He walks you through your new routine. You'll still train with the others, still march, still fight, still eat that cursed broth, but now you'll be watched. Closely. You will rise earlier, sleep later. Your mentor will inspect your form, your speech, your decisions. He hands you a fresh tunic, cleaner, slightly thicker than your last. You'll need to be better now, he says. No smile, no warmth, just expectation. And strangely, pride. The others know what's happened the moment you return to the yard. You don't have to say anything. They see the tunic, the clean sandals, the quiet eyes of someone who now has someone watching. And they treat you differently. Some sneer, some nod. One younger boy looks at you with envy so sharp it might draw blood. That day your drills are faster, harder, you're pushed further. No one dares to let you slack. Not now. You're expected to set the standard. And when you fail, and you will, you're expected to fail gracefully. With a clenched jaw, not a grimace. Your mentor watches from the edge of the yard, arms crossed. You stumble once during shield formation. Just once. Later, after dinner, you're summoned to his chamber. He doesn't hit you, doesn't yell. He makes you hold a bronze spear above your head for a full hour. Your arms shake, your shoulders cramp. He watches, and when you finish, he says, "Don't drop it again." You whisper, "I won't." He nods. That's enough. Back in the barracks, the other boys glance your way but say nothing. You lie down on your reed mat, wondering what kind of attention is worse, being ignored or being expected to lead. You remember earlier in the Agoge when you were invisible, when you could fail in the background, unnoticed. Now, you have no shadows left to hide in. Your mentor shows you how to speak clearly, how to walk like a soldier, not a scavenger, how to carry your spear without looking like it might carry you. He teaches you how to give orders, short, sharp, efficient, even if no one listens yet. And slowly you begin to stand taller, not because you're proud, because you're watched. Because in Sparta, leadership isn't a position, it's a performance, and the stage is never dark. Scholars still debate the emotional dynamics of these mentorships. Some insist they were genuine, even tender. Others argue they were transactional, bordering on authoritarian. Whatever the truth, the bond was real, and it carried weight. That weight now sits squarely on your shoulders, and your back still hasn't healed from the altar. But tonight, as you lie still, tunic folded beside your mat, a bowl of broth untouched at your side, you feel it. Pressure, responsibility, and, for the first time, something dangerously close to purpose. You've been chosen, and now you have to earn it. Leadership, you quickly learn, isn't about being liked. It's not about being the strongest or the smartest either. It's about being watched, constantly, and never once letting your knees shake in public. You wake earlier than the others now, before the whistle, before the sun cracks the horizon. Your mentor expects it. He doesn't announce it. He simply knocks once against the barracks wall at a time that feels mathematically impossible. You rise, you run, just the two of you through the pre-dawn fog, your feet slapping against frozen earth. Your legs burn before you're halfway down the trail, but there's no slowing. He doesn't say a word, he doesn't look back, he knows you're behind him, and he knows you'd rather collapse than disappoint him. Afterward, he corrects your posture as you practice shield drills. Not gently, he moves your limbs like you're made of clay, and he's been assigned to remold you before breakfast. A slight bend in the elbow, a wrist that quivers, all unacceptable. You won't get to tremble in battle, he says. That line stays with you all day. When you return to the training yard with the others, the trainers barely look your way. Not because you're safe, but because now you belong to someone else's scrutiny. Your mentor's eye is harsher than theirs. They know it. So do you, and so do the boys. Some look at you with awe, others with resentment. One glares at you all morning. He's older. He used to be first in the running drills. Now you're faster. He doesn't like that. During sparring, he chooses you. It's not assigned. It's a silent challenge. You nod. The bout starts civil. One step, a feint, the clack of wood on wood. Then he goes for your throat. Literally. You duck. Barely. His staff clips your collarbone and sends a jolt down your spine. The trainer says nothing. They're watching. Everyone's watching. You counter. Swing low. He jumps back. Grins. He likes this. So do you. This is not anger. This is Spartan hierarchy management. Every blow you land must say, I belong here. Every hit you take must say, I can endure more. You lose the match. Not badly. Just by one clean strike. But afterward he claps you on the shoulder. About time someone gave it back. You nod. Because in Sparta, even rivals are earned. Spartan boys were constantly ranked, with every action evaluated and remembered. There were no participation trophies, no quiet growth. You either rose or you were trampled. Scholars remain divided on how rigid these internal hierarchies truly were. Some believe rankings were formal and strict. Others say they were fluid, enforced by peer dynamics more than policy. But all agree, there was always a ladder, and every rung had blood on it. Later that evening, your mentor calls you aside. What did you learn today, you think? Speak carefully. That I'm not the fastest, yet. He nods once. That's all. He teaches you how to dress a wound properly, how to repair a fraying tunic, how to sharpen a blade using only stone and silence. He shows you how to walk into a room like it belongs to you, but he never praises. Not directly. Your victories are yours to interpret. That night, your fellow trainees whisper around the mats. A rumour spreads. One of the boys will be removed soon. Cowardice, someone says. Snuck bread, another adds. You don't ask for details. You've learned that truth in Sparta often has more to do with how you're perceived than what you've done. You lie back, still sore but sharper somehow. Not just in muscle, but in presence. You used to flinch when your name was called. Now, you brace your shoulders and nod. When you close your eyes, you still see your opponent's grin, and you see the approving look your mentor gave you after the match. Subtle, barely a twitch of the mouth, but it was there. That one flicker keeps you warm through the chill of the night. Because in Sparta, warmth doesn't come from blankets. It comes from the knowledge that someone is watching you, and, for now, you haven't let them down. You're used to the bruises by now. Used to the cold mornings, the bread-like roof tiles, the silent meals, the constant surveillance. You've adapted to the pain, memorized the drills, even come to anticipate the little humiliations, the scraped knees, the missed blocks, the punishment laps. But what you haven't adapted to are the girls. Today you're marched out beyond the training grounds toward a field where you've never trained before. The terrain is unfamiliar. Sparse olive trees dot the hills. Beyond them, in a flat clearing, you see them. Spartan girls, and they see you. You blink. You didn't even know they trained like this. Not officially. Not in the stories the boys whisper before sleep. But here they are, barefoot like you, tunics hiked at the thigh for movement, arms roped with lean muscle, tossing javelins that whistle when they fly, and they are better at this than you. One of the trainers speaks. You'll observe. Today, you'll learn what strength really looks like. You stand, trying to look unimpressed while also trying not to stare too hard. The girls move like wolves. No wasted motion, no hesitation. They're not being trained to serve husbands. They're being trained to bear warriors, to run households while men are at war, to be physically and mentally formidable in their own right. In ancient Sparta, women were educated, trained in athletics, and encouraged to speak boldly. They weren't soldiers, but they were expected to be strong, assertive, and fiercely patriotic. And while most ancient societies kept girls away from anything that smelled like a battlefield, Sparta put them into foot races, discus throws, wrestling matches. You're told that when a Spartan mother gave her son a shield, she said, "With it or on it." You now understand why. The girls pause their training. One of them, taller than most boys in your cohort, steps forward. She points at you. "You," she says, "throw." It's not a request. You're handed a javelin by a smirking instructor. It feels heavier than you expected. Maybe it's nerves. Maybe it's just shame. You throw. It flops. Not completely. It sails, sort of, then dips, lands awkwardly. Some polite clapping comes from your side of the field. From your side, the girls don't clap. The tall one shakes her head. "Weak wrist," she says. "No control." You're used to insult from boys. It stings differently coming from someone who's clearly superior and knows it. The girls resume their drills. Your group is told to mimic them. You spend the next hour running laps, tossing javelins, holding stances that make your shoulders ache. They correct you. Yes, they correct you. One girl adjusts your elbow with a sigh of theatrical boredom. Another tells you your feet are too close together. By the end of the session, you're drenched in sweat, dusty and utterly humbled. And yet you're smiling. Not because it was fun. Because finally you understand, in Sparta, everyone trains. Not just to fight, but to lead, to survive, to raise warriors, to be warriors in their own way. Scholars continue to marvel at the status of women in Spartan society. They held rights to property, education, physical training, all unheard of in most Greek city-states. The balance wasn't perfect, but it was sharper, stranger, stronger. Later, at the communal bathhouse, you soak your arms and shoulders. The water is lukewarm at best, but it soothes more than just your muscles. A boy sits next to you. "She beat you with her eyes," he says. You nod. "She beat all of us," you reply. He chuckles. "I think I'm in love." You both laugh. It's a quiet one, tight-lipped, weary, but it's the sound of shared defeat. That evening, as you eat your usual broth, something new appears beside it. A single fig. You glance up, but no one claims responsibility. Then you spot her, at the edge of the mess hall, walking past with the other girls. She doesn't look your way, just keeps moving. A trainer leans in. "Honour takes many forms," he mutters. "One is humility." You nod. You're not sure if the fig is a gift, a joke, a warning, but you eat it anyway. Later, as you lie on your mat, arms still aching from the afternoon's drills, you whisper to yourself, "She was right. Weak wrist. You'll fix that tomorrow." Because in Sparta, your competition is never just beside you. Sometimes it's across the field, armed with sharper eyes and better posture, and sometimes she's already running faster than you. The next morning comes with a new kind of chill, the kind that doesn't come from the wind or cold floors or sleeping without a blanket. This one comes from what's not said. No orders, no announcements, no drills, you're just told to wait. The boys gather silently, brows furrowed, shoulders tense. You stand among them, body stiff, eyes darting. Something's coming. And then from the far end of the camp the instructors appear. Behind them, carried by helots, are bundles, wooden sticks, masks, black cloaks. Your stomach drops. It's time for the krypteia. You've heard the word before, whispered between bunks, usually at night, when the bravest boys try to sound unfazed. But no one really knows what it means until it happens. Today, you learn. The lead trainer steps forward. Tonight, he says, some of you will vanish. If you return, you're men. If you don't, you were not meant to be. No ceremony, no dramatic speeches, just that. The boys chosen for the krypteia are handed cloaks, daggers, and a command. Survive, unseen. That's it. No food, no water, no companions, just you, the night, and the expectation that you'll do what's necessary. Historically, the krypteia was one of the most mysterious and controversial institutions in Spartan society. Described by some ancient writers as a kind of secret police force, by others as a rite of passage, its true purpose is debated. Some say it was designed to train stealth and resilience. Others suggest a darker aim, control of the helot population through fear. Experts still debate whether the krypteia was ceremonial, military, or somewhere in between. What's clear is this. It was dangerous, elite, and morally murky. You're not chosen, not this time, but your roommate is. He stands, face unreadable. He's handed a cloak, a dagger, a bundle of bread that might last 2 days. He looks at you once, says nothing, then disappears into the woods. No one speaks for hours. Later, you're taken to a different kind of drill. Not strength, not combat, deception. You're taught how to blend into shadows, how to walk silently, how to watch a fire without being seen, how to kill someone with a rock. The instructor says it like he's reading off a grocery list. He grabs your wrist and positions your hand around a smooth stone. Edge here, he mutters. Base of the skull. No second strike. You swallow hard. You're not being trained to fight fair. You're being trained to survive in the dark. That night, your barracks feels quieter than usual. No rustling, no whispered jokes, just the echo of missing footsteps. A mat is empty. You lie there, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he's hiding in a tree right now, if he's already failed, or if he's watching you, practicing his silence. You dream of branches snapping. In the morning, no one mentions him. You rise, train, eat, and fall into routine like nothing's changed. Because in Sparta, absence is not discussed. The next evening, you're given your own black cloak. Not for the krypteia, not yet, but a sign. You're being watched, says your mentor. They're testing your readiness. You nod. He hands you a knife. Keep this. Hidden. You'll need it soon. The blade is short, balanced. It fits in your hand like it was made for you. The first time you've held real steel, not wood, you sleep with it under your mat. The next day, you train harder than ever. Not because you want to be chosen, because you know now what happens if you are. That night during dinner, a boy returns. He's filthy, eyes sunken, limps into the mess hall and collapses. He made it. Barely. You all look at him like he's some kind of ghost. Because in a way he is. He's seen something you haven't. Done something you still can't quite imagine. The trainers don't praise him. They just nod, then hand him a bowl of broth. No special meal, no ceremony. But in that bowl, you see something sacred. Not food. Permission to keep existing. And you realise the krypteia isn't a rite of passage. It's a culling. You return to your mat that night and place your knife beside you, hand resting lightly on the hilt. Not out of fear, out of preparation. Because in Sparta, readiness isn't just expected. It's the line between life and legend. It happens during the midday sparring drills, just after you've taken a staff to the ribs and before your brain finishes arguing with your lungs about whether this is the end. A boy stumbles during formation. Nothing major. A loose heel, a missed step. But it's enough. The trainer stops everything. The courtyard falls silent. He walks over, slowly, theatrically, and lifts the boy's chin with the tip of a wooden rod. "What is Sparta's rule?" he asks. The boy swallows. "Do not shame the line." "And what did you do?" The boy doesn't answer. He doesn't have to. The trainer steps back and gestures to the others. "Form up." You obey. The boy is pulled from the line and ordered to kneel in the centre of the yard. Then it begins. Not a beating, not lashes. Something worse. Shame. The older boys are told to circle him, to correct him, with words. One by one they call him out. Too slow. Soft hands. Can't hold formation. More Athenian than Spartan. Each phrase cuts sharper than any blade. Each insult lands with a thud in the pit of your stomach, even though they're not aimed at you, and then your name is called. You step forward. You're expected to join in. This is the lesson. Humiliation shapes obedience. Spartan boys are taught to fear public failure more than pain. A bruise heals. A reputation. That sticks like wet clay. You lock eyes with the boy. You pause. "Work on your stance," you say, flatly. Then step back. Not the worst insult. Not the harshest. But you said it. You participated. That night, you try to justify it. If I hadn't said anything, they would have noticed, asked why, punished me. And it's probably true, but it doesn't feel better. Spartan society enforced conformity not just through training, but through ritualized shame. Boys who failed, even briefly, were corrected publicly, so the lesson embedded itself deeply. No one wanted to be the reason the phalanx broke. No one wanted to be the weak link. You've seen shame used before. The boy who stole too obviously, the one who dropped his shield, the one who cried out during the whipping at Artemis's altar. They weren't beaten every time, but the eyes of their peers did more damage than any staff ever could. Experts debate the exact nature of public discipline in Sparta. Some argue that these moments were rare and formal. Others suggest it was constant, a slow, burning mechanism of control that left no space for emotional weakness. All you know is, after today, the boy who stumbled doesn't speak. Not at meals, not during drills. He stares at the ground, silent. You think about sitting next to him, but you don't, because in Sparta, association is accountability. You return to your mat that evening and lay flat, arms at your sides, the same way you've done since your first night. But tonight, the mat scratches more. The air feels heavier, and that boy's face hovers behind your eyes. Your mentor says nothing about the incident, but he watches you longer than usual. At dinner, he slides his bread closer to your bowl. A silent signal. You chose survival. That's the right instinct. And still, you feel like you've been scraped raw. The next day, the boy is back in formation. He moves carefully, perfectly, and when the trainer barks a command, he's the first to respond. Because in Sparta, there is no apology. There is only recovery, or erasure. Later that week, you slip during a grappling match. Nothing major, just a stagger. Someone snorts. You hear it, feel it, like a blade across your spine. You redouble your grip, drive your opponent into the dust, pin him harder than you should, almost angrily. When the match ends, your opponent nods once. He understands. He's been there. Everyone has. The fear of public shame is a central theme in Spartan education, not because it builds character, but because it sharpens instincts. If your mistake hurts you, that's unfortunate. If it weakens the group, that's unforgivable. And that's what today has really taught you. You're never just performing for the trainers. You're performing for everyone, your peers, your rivals, your potential future commanders. Every step, every strike, every stumble is recorded in the quiet ledger that floats over this camp. There's no grade, no scores. But you know when you've fallen behind. You also know that when it happens again, because it will, you'll be expected to stand in that circle. And when someone says to weak stance, you'll nod. Then fix it. Because in Sparta, failure isn't the end. It's a warning. Ignore it, and you vanish. Face it, and you might just rise stronger. It's a strange sort of silence, the kind that falls after a storm. Not peaceful, not calming, but charged. That's what camp feels like this morning. Like something's about to happen, and no one wants to be the first to mention it. The routines carry on. The sour broth, the barefoot jog, the endless repetition of drills that feel carved into your muscle memory by now. But everyone's eyes are tracking the same thing. The shadows, the tree lines, the instructors. Something's coming. You just don't know what. until the trainer calls out a single word, krypteia, not as a warning, as a summons, and this time your name is on the list. There's no ceremony, no speech, just a nod, a dagger, a cloak, a command. Leave at dusk, return before dawn, survive. And suddenly, the world shrinks to a handful of instructions and the sound of your heartbeat. You keep your face blank as the others glance your way, some with jealousy, some with worry, one or two with something worse, expectation. They want to see if you'll make it back. You're given no map, no food, no company. You leave the gates just after dark, the cloak tight around your shoulders, the dagger hidden beneath it. The land is familiar and terrifying now. Every shadow might be a trap, every stick underfoot a betrayal. You've trained for this moment. Now you have to live it. The krypteia was, according to ancient accounts, a rite in which elite Spartan youths were sent out alone, cloaked and armed, to survive in the wild and, allegedly, to kill helots under cover of darkness. Some scholars interpret this as a brutal tool of social control. Others see it as symbolic, an ordeal to test stealth, resourcefulness, and the ability to navigate fear. The truth remains debated, whether it was targeted assassination or pure survival test. But either way, you're in it now. You move quickly but quietly, through the trees, down the dried-out riverbed, past a herd of goats startled by your scent. The moon is high, bright enough to read your own breath. You crouch in the underbrush and wait. Hours pass. The silence of night becomes a noise all its own. Wind through grass, owl wings overhead, the distant bark of a dog from some unseen village. And then you see movement. Two shapes, helots. You don't know. You freeze, body instinctively dropping lower, heart climbing into your throat. They pass by, speaking softly, unaware. You hold still. You could strike. The dagger is in your hand. But you don't move, because you're not here to kill. Not tonight. Not unless you must. You wait. They pass. You breathe again. And when the moon dips behind the clouds, you begin moving again, slow and deliberate like water through cracks. You find a spot near an old stump and dig in for the rest of the night. No fire, no shelter, just your cloak, the earth, and a growing pain in your stomach that reminds you haven't eaten in a day. You don't sleep. You watch. You listen. You survive. At dawn you return, cloak damp with dew, eyes red from dust, skin bruised from branches and cold rocks, but you return. The camp gate creaks open, and the trainer meets your eye. He doesn't ask questions, doesn't check for blood, just nods. Inside, you're given water, a heel of bread, a place to sit. You made it. And just like that, you've changed. Not just in the eyes of the trainers, but in the eyes of the boys. You walked alone in the dark and came back breathing. That makes you different now. You're not congratulated, you're not celebrated. But when you line up for drills that afternoon, your old rival shifts slightly to make space. And when you fall into step during the march, the boy behind you follows without question. Later that night, your mentor visits you in the barracks. "Did you strike?" he asks. You hesitate, then shake your head. He nods once. "You chose correctly," he says. "This time." He doesn't explain. He doesn't need to, because in Sparta, the lesson isn't always in what you do. Sometimes, it's in what you choose not to. You sleep that night with your dagger still at your side, but your hand doesn't tremble anymore. You're still sore, still cold, still tired, but no longer afraid of the dark, because you've been in it and walked out the other side. By now, the routine no longer feels like a test. It feels like life. You wake, not because you're told to, but because your body rises on instinct. You tie your tunic without thinking. You march before the sun touches the courtyard. You eat whatever is given, swallow whatever aches, and speak only when silence is more dangerous. You don't remember what day it is. There are no days in Sparta, only progressions. You're older now, by months, maybe a year. You can't tell. The seasons pass with no fanfare. Your back is broader, your voice is deeper, your stare is harder, and today you receive the final instruction. Prepare for battle readiness. That's not a metaphor. This is not another round of drills or games. This is the day they see if you can stand shoulder to shoulder with Sparta's front line, if you've become what all this has been shaping you into. You're handed a real spear, a real shield. Your mentor stands beside you. He says nothing. But the silence feels heavier than usual, proud, final. You line up with the other boys. No longer boys, not really. You're arranged in ranks. The sun climbs higher. Sweat slicks your neck. Dust clings to your ankles. Your arms are sore from holding the shield even before the fight begins, because this isn't a spar. This is a mock war, and you're expected to move as one. You've trained for this. Every night on the reed mat, every freezing dawn, every punishment, every insult, every lash at the altar of Artemis, every bowl of black broth, every miserable sprint across stone. All of it was for this. The whistle blows, and suddenly you are moving. Your shield slams against the one beside it. The line advances. You don't think. You flow. You breathe as one with the formation, feel the vibration of 20 feet in unison, the tug of the phalanx as it flexes and contracts. It is beautiful, and it is terrifying. The opposing formation charges. There is no safe zone, no soft middle, only the clash of wood, bronze, and bone. You keep your eyes on the shoulder in front of you, that's all. You don't fight as you fight as part of Sparta. You push, you shove, you bash your shield like it's the last wall between life and death. And for the first time, you understand the design, the relentless drills, the shaved heads, the public shame, the silence, the suffering. None of it was cruelty for its own sake. It was to remove you, your ego, your fear, your softness, and replace it with cohesion. Sparta does not want you. Sparta wants a spear in a line of spears, a wall, an avalanche, a single living weapon. Historians agree that by age 18, Spartan males who had survived the Agoge were considered ready for combat, though true, full military membership wouldn't come until 20. Still, these mock battles were as close to real as possible, preparing youths for the wall of shields and storm of iron that defined hoplite warfare. You fall once, a foot catches yours, your shield nearly slips, but you recover. No one helps you, no one needs to. When the exercise ends, you're panting, sweat-soaked, dust-streaked, and standing. The instructor nods once, not at you, at the group, and that's all you get. That evening, the mess hall is louder than usual, still no shouting, still no boasting, but more nods exchanged, more quiet satisfaction. A few of the older boys clap shoulders. A few pass their bread down the line, unspoken rewards for those who held fast. You're handed a small strip of smoked meat. It's not a feast, but it tastes better than anything you've eaten in months. Your mentor visits you at your mat. This was the final test, he says. You sit straighter. He doesn't speak for a moment, then, you're ready. You want to smile, you don't. Instead, you nod. Because in Sparta, celebration is for later, for much, much later. You lie down on your reed mat, now thicker, better gathered, almost comfortable. You've learned the good spots in the field, the soft patches. You know how to angle the reeds to avoid the worst bites, and as you stare at the rafters, the realization settles into your bones like warm breath. You've survived. You've trained. You've endured everything they threw at you, and now, when they say your name, it is not followed by laughter or silence or correction. It is followed by space made in the formation. You are not the best. You're not the fastest. But you are still here, and that in Sparta is the beginning of everything. The sun rises slow and golden over the Spartan camp, casting long shadows that stretch across the courtyard like spears laid in formation. You stand there, for once not cold, not sore, not dreading what's next, because there is no next, not in the same way. You've reached the end of the Agoge. You've done it. You've lived a day, or many, inside a machine that was built not for comfort, not for joy, but for one purpose, to forge the most disciplined, resilient warriors the ancient world would ever fear to face. But you're not from here. You're not meant for this. That's been obvious since the first reed mat, since the first spoon of blood-thick broth, since the first blow to the ribs and the first lesson in how to stand perfectly still while someone calls you a disgrace in front of your peers. You shouldn't have made it. You, with your hesitation, your longing for pillows and polite conversation, your tendency to flinch when people throw things, or raise their voices, or suggest a morning jog before food. But here you are, somehow astonishingly here. Let's be honest though, you wouldn't have lasted a real day. A full 24 hours in the true Spartan Agoge? Not with its barefoot sprints over icy stone, not with its starvation as curriculum philosophy, not with its steal or starve, but don't get caught morality, not with your staff form, not with your tendency to fall asleep curled up on your side like a happy cat instead of flat on your back like a dead hoplite. Number 1 day would have been enough, but now that you've imagined surviving it, walked barefoot beside the boys, ate their meals, bore their bruises, endured their punishments, you can understand them better. Not as the statues we've carved from marble, but as boys, tough, scared, scraped-kneed boys who learn not to cry when it hurt. And somewhere between the black broth, the reed mats, and the lessons whispered in the cold before dawn, you became something else too, not a Spartan, but a shadow of one, enough to glimpse the price of greatness, enough to know it's not glory that makes them legends, it's the fact that somehow they didn't give up, and neither did you. Not even when the broth made you gag, not even when your toes went numb, not even when you were told to disappear, and now, as the torchlight fades, and your feet, sore and calloused, finally rest one last time on that worn patch of straw, let's slow everything down. Your breath softens. The sounds of the camp fade, replaced by the gentle hush of night air. The torches are low now, flickering like distant stars behind your eyelids. You lie still on your mat, shoulders sinking slowly into the reeds, the ache in your back finally settling into something more familiar, something manageable, something almost comfortable. Your hands, rough and scraped, rest lightly against your chest, rising and falling in a slow, steady rhythm. You've done enough. No more running, no more shouting, no more morning inspections or whispered rumours about who's been chosen, who's vanished, who's returned. There's nothing left to prove. Let the shields rest now, leaned against the wall. Let the staff lie silent by the door. Let the harsh words of the trainers dissolve into memory, far away and distant like thunder that's already passed. Even the air feels softer now. The pain has quieted. The cold doesn't bite anymore. Your body has given all it could. And now it's time to let go, to stop remembering how many lashes, to stop worrying about whether you earned that nod from your mentor. You made it here. You're safe now. So let your eyelids grow heavier. Let your breathing slow. You don't need to hold the line anymore. You're not standing watch. You're not being watched. Not tonight. Just rest. Let the dust settle. Let your heartbeat drift like a fallen leaf on still water. You've made it through the day, and that is enough. Sleep well, Spartan. You've earned it. End of script. Sweet dreams.